Hello everyone, Dennis here. In this video, I'm going to discuss review GCE O Level Additional Mathematics October-November 2019 paper. Subject code is 4047, paper 1. This video is brought to you by Ace with Dennis. Now, learning can be smart, not hard. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell notification button to stop missing out important updates from us. Question 1. Given that theta is acute and cosine theta equals C, expressed in terms of C, 1. Tangent theta, 3 marks. 2. Cosecant theta, 1 mark. Here's the solution. Given that cosine theta equals C, from this information, we can draw a right angle triangle, label this angle as theta. So we know that cosine is Picasso, right? So CAH means adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent length will be C, hypotenuse will be 1. Therefore, the opposite length will be square root of 1 minus C squared. After we have drawn this right angle triangle, then we can start to answer the question. For part 1, tangent theta, we know that it is opposite over adjacent, so we square root of 1 minus C squared over C. For part 2, cosecant theta, it is 1 over sine theta, and we know that sine theta is SOH, so right, opposite over hypotenuse, so the opposite is square root of 1 minus C squared, and the hypotenuse is 1, but since this is 1 over sine theta, therefore the answer for cosecant theta will be 1 over square root of 1 minus C squared. Question 2. Find the set of values of the constant k for which the curve y equals to x squared plus bracket 2k plus 1 x plus 1 lies entirely above the line y equals to x. 4 marks. Here's the solution. Given this equation, y equals to x squared plus 2k plus 1 x plus 1 and y equals to x. Let's label this as the first equation and this as the second equation. So now, since the question says that this curve lies above the line, therefore equation 1 will be greater than equation 2. Then we can form the inequality here. We get x squared plus bracket 2k plus 1 x plus 1 greater than x. Now we can start to solve this inequality. We get x squared plus 2kx plus 1. And we can determine the value of a, b, and c. So for this case, a is 1, b is 2k, and c is 1. Hence, since the curve is above the line, there is no roots. Therefore, b squared minus 4ac will be less than 0. Okay, so be careful here. Although we know that equation 1 is greater than equation 2, it doesn't mean that b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0. The reason is because we don't have any roots for this case. Alright, now we substitute b as 2k, a is 1, c is 1. So it will be 2k squared minus 4 times 1 times 1 less than 0. We get 4k squared less than 4, or 4k squared minus 4 less than 0. Simplify, we get k squared minus 1 less than 0, which means k plus 1 times k minus 1 less than 0. Now, to solve this quadratic inequality, firstly, we have to draw this graph, right? The roots are, the first one is -1 and the second one is 1. This is a smiley face and it is less than 0. Alright, so the graph will be below the x-axis, which is this region. Then from here, we can determine that the range of the k will be from -1 to 1. And hence, this is the answer. Question 3. Given that y equals ae to the power of 2x plus be to the power of negative x, and that dy over dx plus 4y equals e to the power of 2x minus e to the power of negative x. Find the value of each of the constants a and b. 4 marks. Okay, here's the solution. Given the equation y equals ae to the power of 2x plus be to the power of negative x. So the first thing we need to do is we differentiate this equation. We get dy over dx equals 2ae to the power of 2x minus be to the power of negative x. So we can label this as the first equation and this is as the second equation. After that, what we do is we substitute equation 1 and equation 2 into the equation given, which is this one, right? dy over dx plus 4y equals e to the power of 2x minus e to the power of negative x. Okay, so this dy dx we substitute with this equation, and this y we substitute with this equation. Therefore, it becomes 2ae to the power of 2x minus be to the power of negative x plus 4 bracket ae to the power of 2x plus be to the power of negative x equals e to the power of 2x minus e to the power of negative x. Right, then we expand the bracket, we get 2ae to the power of 2x minus be to the power of negative x plus 4ae to the power of 2x plus 4be to the power of negative x equals e to the power of 2x minus e to the power of negative x. We further simplify, we get 6ae to the power of 2x plus 3b e to the power of negative x equals e to the power of 2x minus e to the power of negative x. So the next thing we do is we compare, right? The term with e to the power of 2x, we compare with the term with e to the power of 2x on the right hand side. Okay, so from here, we can see that 6a equals to 1 here, right? Therefore, a is 1 over 6. Similarly, for the term with e to the power of negative x, right? So the 3b equals to negative 1. So be careful with the sign negative here, right? So we get b is equal negative 1 over 3. And this is the answer. Question 4. An ice cube of side xcm is melting in such a way that the total surface area a cm square is decreasing at a constant rate of 48 cm square per second. Assuming that the cube retains its shape, calculate the rate of change of x when x equals 10. 4 marks. Alright, here's the solution. So this is a standard shape, which is a cube. Therefore, we should know that the total surface area will be a equals 6x squared. Now, we can differentiate this a in terms of x, which is dA over dx equals 12x. After that, given the information that dA over dt, which is the rate of change of the area, is 48, right? Over here, you can see that the unit is cm square per seconds. Then we should know that it is dA over dt. So the next thing is, it mentioned it is a decreasing at this constant rate, right? Then we need to include the negative sign here. Therefore, dA over dt is negative 48. Now, we want to find the rate of change of x. So we can represent this in mathematical form, which is dx over dt, and then we form the chain rule equals dx over dA times dA over dt, right? So we start with dx and end with dt. Okay, look at here, dx is here, end with dt, right? And then this one must be same as this one. Okay, so why? Because we have dA here, we also have the dA here, right? Now dx over dA will be 1 over 12x, and dA over dt will be negative 48. So we combine them together, we get negative 4 over x. Then we want to find what is the rate of change of x when x equals to 10. Therefore, just substitute x equals to 10 into this dx over dt, we get negative 4 over 10. Simplify, we get negative 2 over 5 cm per seconds. Alright, so now we can make a conclusion that the side of the cube decreases at the rate of 2 over 5 cm per second when x equals to 10. Alright, notice that decreases. Why is the reason? Because we get a negative value here, right? And this value, you don't have to include the negative sign anymore since we have mentioned this is a decreasing value. Question 5. 1. A manufacturer produces a disinfectant that destroys 21% of all known germs within 1 minute of use. If N is the number of germs present when the disinfectant is first used, and assuming germs continue to be destroyed at the same rate, explain why the number of germs expected to be alive after n minutes is given by 0.79 to the power n times n, 2 marks. Here's the solution. To explain why we can get this expression, firstly, we should calculate a few examples and observe the pattern. So let's build this table and calculate a few examples, right? So from here, the small n is the number of minutes after we apply the disinfectant, and the n is the number of germs present when the disinfectant is first used, right? In other words, when n equals to 0, the capital N is still remain as capital N. When n is 1, that means after 1 minute of use, then the number of germs present will start to reduce, which is n times 1 minus 0.21, as mentioned here, because 21% of the germs are destroyed. Okay, so which means that when n is 1, the n will be 0.79 n. Now we move on to when n is 2, so what will happen? It will be 0.79 n, which we get from here, right? Multiply with 0.21, which means that another 21% of the germs are destroyed. And we get 0.79 squared. We move on to when n equals to 3, then we will get 0.79 square n times 1 minus 0.21. And we will get 0.79 cube n. Right? Observe the pattern, right? We'll repeat the process. And in general, when n is small n here, right, the capital N will be 0.79 n, 0.79 to the power n times n. This explains why we can get this formula. Okay, part 2. The manufacturer decides to advertise by stating that the disinfectant destroys X% of all known germs within 20 minutes of use. Calculate to two significant figures the value of X, 2 marks. Right, so here's a solution. This is pretty straightforward, right, because we already know the formula, right, which is 0.79 to the power n times n, right? So I want to know how many percent of the germs are destroyed after 20 minutes of use. So it will be X%, right, multiply with the n, okay, equals to n minus 0.79 to the power 20 n, because the small n is 20, right? We want to get the value of the x here. Okay, from here, we can cancel out the n, right? The capital N, we get x over 100 equals 1 minus 0.79 to the power 20. We solve it, we get x is 99.1, or 99 to two significant figures. And this is the answer. Part 3. Given that the number of germs expected to be alive after n minutes can be expressed as capital NE to the power of Kn, find the value of constant k, 2 marks. Okay, here's the solution. We can equate the formula from the previous part, right? 0.79 to the power n times n equals this expression, n e to the power k n. So from here, n can cancel with n, only left with 0.79 to the power n equals e to the power k, right? And we can leave the bracket outside, right, at n here. So now why we want to do this? Because we actually have the same power here, so that we can compare the body, which is e to the power k equals to 0.79. Alright, then we log both sides, right, which we get ln e k, which is k here, equals ln 0.79, and the k value will be negative 0.236 to 3 significant figures, and this is the answer. Question 6. Given this diagram. In the diagram, PQ is the diameter of a circle center O. Triangle PQR is an isosceles triangle with PQ equals PR. The line QR intersects the circle at T. The tangent to the circle at T meets PR at S. 1. Show that angle TSR equals 90 degrees. 5 marks. Here's the solution. Given PQ is a diameter, right? Therefore, angle PTQ equals 90 degrees, as this is the property of a diameter, right? Which means angle in a semicircle. Alright, we can now label this angle as 90 degrees. Next, angle PQT plus QPT plus 90 equals 180 degrees, right? Which is the angle sum in a triangle QPT. So QPT. Okay. Now this angle plus 90 degrees equals 180, which means that these two angles, right, angle PQT plus angle QPT equals 90 degrees. So angle PTS equals angle PQT because it is alternate segment theorem. Now let's label this angle and PQT, this angle here, right? Now next one, given that triangle PQR is isosceles triangle, which means that PT bisects angle PQR. So we can say that angle TPS equals angle QPT, right? So this angle and this angle are the same. Therefore, angle PTS plus angle TPS equals angle PQT plus angle QPT, and it will give us 90 degrees. Therefore, angle TSP is 90 degrees because it is angle sum in triangle PST. Okay, now we can label this angle as 90 degrees. From here, we can say that angle TSP plus angle TSR equals to 180 degrees because it is angle sum on straight line PSR, which means that angle TSR equals 90 degrees, which is the angle that we want to prove. Therefore, shown. Part 2. Explain why the circle passing through the points S, R, and T has its center at midpoint of TR. 2 marks. Alright, so where is the point? So S, R, and T. we know it is already 90 degrees, right? So the midpoint of the TR is the center. Okay, so this is pretty easy. Here's a solution. We already proven that angle TSR is 90 degrees here, right? Okay, so this is a right angle triangle. Then TR is the diameter of a circle. Okay, because the region is angle in a semicircle. Right, so therefore, we can make the conclusion that the center of the circle passing through S, R, and T is at the midpoint of the TR. Okay, and this is to explain this question. Question 7. 1. Write down and simplify the first three terms in the expansion in ascending powers of x of 2 minus x over 8 to the power of 6. 3 marks. Here is the solution. So this question is binomial expansion question. So the very first step you need to do is identify a, b, and n. So for this case, the a is 2, the b is negative 8 over x over 8, and the n is 6. Right? So look at this term here, right? This is the a, this whole thing is b, and this is the n. Next, we can apply the binomial expansion formula to expand this expression. So 2 minus x over 8 to the power 6 equals 2 to the power 6 plus 6 choose 1 times 2 to the power 5 times negative x over 8 plus 6 choose 2 times 2 to the power 4 times negative x over 8 square, and so on. Right, so we don't have to expand everything because, as mentioned in the question, it only wants the first three terms. So this is the first term, second term, and third term. Then we simplify. From this expansion, we get 64 minus 24x plus 15 over x squared plus dot dot dot. 2. In the expansion of bracket 4 plus kx plus x squared times 2 minus x over 8 to the power of 6, the sum of the coefficients of x and x squared is 0. Find the value of the constant k. 4 marks. And here's the solution. So from the given expression here, 4 plus kx plus x squared times 2 minus x over 8 to the power of 6. So we can substitute this binomial term here, right, to be 64 minus 24x plus 15 over 4 x squared, and so on, from what we get from part 1. Okay, so this first bracket, we don't do anything, we just copy down. The next thing we need to do is, based on the question, sum of the coefficient of x and x squared equals to 0. And from this expansion, we can try to expand and see which combination can give us the x term and x squared term. So for this case, 4 times negative 24x will give us the x term. So that's why the coefficient will be 4 times negative 24. The next one will be 4 times 15 over 4 x squared, which will give us the x squared term. So that's why the coefficient will be 4 times 15 over 4. Then followed by kx times 64 will give us the x term. Therefore, the coefficient is k times 64. And kx times negative 24x give us x squared term. So the coefficient will be k times negative 24. Next, the x squared multiplied with the 64 will give us x squared term. Therefore, the coefficient will be 64. The other combination will not give us x or x squared term. Then, we just solve this equation. Simplify first, we get negative 17 plus 40, k equals to 0, which means k equals 17 over 40. And this is the answer. Question 8. The equation of a curve is y equals x plus 2x plus 5 over x minus 2. 1. Find dy over dx and d square y over dx squared. 3 marks. So this question is pretty straightforward. What we need to do is just differentiate this equation 2 times. Okay, so here's the solution. So given the equation y equals 2x, x plus 2x plus 5 over x minus 2. So dy over dx will be, when we differentiate the x, we get 1. And the second term here, right, we can apply the quotient rule. So I want to differentiate this second term. First, we copy down the denominator x minus 2. Then we differentiate the numerator 2x plus 5. We get 2 here. Then minus, we copy the numerator 2x plus 5. Then we differentiate the denominator x minus 2. We get 1. Then over the denominator square. So x minus 2 squared. Then the next thing is we just try to simplify the second term. So we get 1 plus 2x minus 4 minus 2x minus 5 over x minus 2 square. And eventually we get 1 minus 9 over x minus 2 square. Next, we want to have the second derivative, d square y over dx square. So given dy over dx equals 1 minus 9 over x minus 2 square, then we can actually change to this negative power first before we want to differentiate further, so that our differentiation will be easier. Alright, now d square y over dx square will be differentiate 1, we get 0, right? Then differentiate the second term here, we get negative 9 times negative 2, we get 18, right? And then copy the bracket, power minus 1, so negative 2 minus 1, we get negative 3 here. Then we differentiate the bracket 1, so 2x x minus 2, we get 1. Then the answer for this second derivative will be 18 over x minus 2 cubed. Part 2. Find the x-coordinate of each of the stationary points of the curve. 3 marks. 3. Determine the nature of each stationary point. 2 marks. Okay, here's the solution. So since we want to find the stationary points, we have to let dy over dx equals to 0. Okay, because when it is at stationary points, the gradient is 0. Right, so we have already differentiated the y. Then we get 1 minus 9 over x minus 2 squared equal to 0. Then we solve this equation. Okay, so it will be 9 over x minus 2 squared equals to 1, which means that 9 equals x minus 2 squared. Then we expand the bracket, we get 9 equals x squared minus 4x plus 4. So make one side to be 0. 0 equals to x squared minus 4x minus 5. Then we can factorize it, becomes 0 equals x minus 5 times x plus 1. Which means that x goes to 5 or x goes to negative 1. Okay, part 2. To determine the nature of each stationary point, we can use the second derivative equation here, d squared y over dx squared equals to 18 over x minus 2 cubed. So when x equals to 5, we substitute this value into this expression. We get that d squared y over dx squared equals to 18 over 5 minus 2 cubed. So we don't have to calculate the actual value. We just look at this value here, right? 5 minus 2, we get a positive value. We cube it, we get a positive value. So 18 is a positive value. So the whole thing will be positive. That means that d squared y over dx squared is greater than 0. So the point at x equals to 5 is the minimum point. For the second point, when x goes to negative 1, we do the same thing. Right? Substitute into d squared y over dx squared, we get 18 over x minus 1 minus 2 cubed. So we'll get a negative value. So this means that the point at x equals negative 1 is a maximum point. Question 9. Given this diagram, the diagram shows a kite ABCD in which AB equals BC and AD equals DC. The point A, 0, 2 and B lie on the y-axis. The diagonals AC and BD intersect at point P on the x-axis. Given that the length of AB is 4 units, 1. Explain why BC is parallel to the x-axis. 2 marks. Here's a solution. Given that AB equals BC, so AB is here, BC is here. Therefore, triangle ABC is isosceles triangle. Then, the tangent angle BAC, which is this angle, will be BC over AD, BC over AB, and it will give you 1 since BC equals to AB. So, angle BAC equals angle BCA, which is 45 degrees. Therefore, when we add this angle plus angle ABC will give us 180 degrees. Because this is sum of angle sum in triangle ABC. Which means that angle ABC is 90 degrees. Therefore, BC is parallel with the x-axis. 2. Find the coordinates of C. 1 mark. So the point C is here. Here is the solution. Since the coordinates of B is 0, -2, and AB equals BC. Therefore, C will be 4, -2. Okay, so we can see that the length of BA will be 4 units. Therefore, the length of BC must be 4 units as well. Okay, so the coordinates of B will be 0, -2. Then the coordinate C will be 4, -2. And this is the answer. Given further that the area of the kite is 28 units square. 3. Find the coordinates of D. 5 marks. Okay, so here is the point D. And the solution will be, first we let the coordinates of D as A, B, right? Because this point is not on the x or the y axis. So from here we have 2 unknowns to find. If we have 2 unknowns to find, we need to form 2 equations so that we can solve simultaneous equation. So the first equation that we can form is from the information given, which is the area of the kite. Okay, we can apply the shoelace method. So the area of the kite given is 28 units square, right? So 28 equals to half. We start with point A, coordinates is 0, 2, followed by point B, right? Follow the anti-clockwise direction. So point B is 0, -2. Next is point C, 4, -2. Point D, AB. Then go back to point A, 0, 2. So the next step is, okay, we can multiply the numbers diagonally. 0 times -2 is 0, 0 times -2 is 0. 4 times B will be 4B. A times 2 will be 2A. Okay, minus then the opposite direction, right? The diagonals here. 2 times 0 is 0. -2 times 4 you get -8. -2 times A we get -2A. B times 0 is 0. So we ignore those zeros value. Okay, then simplify this equation, we get 28 equals to half 4A plus 4B plus 8, which is 28 equals 2A plus 2B plus 4. 2A plus 2B equals 24. Then we divide both sides with 2. Then it's A plus B equals 12. This is our first equation. Next, to find the second equation, right, we can form the equation of the line BD because this line passes through point D. Before we want to form the equation of line BD, first we want to find the gradient of AC first, which is like the gradient y2 minus y1 over x2 over x1. So the gradient of AC will be 2 minus -2 over 0 minus 4, which will give us -1. Now, we know that the line AC is perpendicular to line BD. Therefore, when we multiply the gradients of both lines together, MAC times MBD will give us -1. Hence, the gradient of BD will be 1. Okay, now we can form the equation of the line BD, y equals to mx plus c. So the equation becomes y equals x minus 2, alright? We know already the gradient is 1. And the y-intercept will be point B, which is minus 2 here. This is, since the coordinates of D is AB, therefore this equation becomes B equals A minus 2. And this is our second equation. Right, we have the first equation, we got the second equation because we want to find two unknowns A and B. Now we solve simultaneous equation. For this case, I can choose substitution method. We substitute equation 1 into equation 2. So this is what we get. A plus A minus 2 equals 12. Right, and we can see that the unknown B is eliminated. So 2A equals to 14. Therefore, A equals 7. Now we can find the value of B. So the B, we use this equation, right? B equals to A minus 2. Since A is 7, then B equals to 7 minus 2. And we get B equals to 5. Hence, the coordinates of D will be 7, 5. Question 10. A. Find the value of x and y which satisfy the equations 3 to the power x plus y equals cube root of 27. 4 to the power y over 2 to the power x equals half to the power negative 3. 4 marks. So this is a simultaneous equation question where we want to find the values of two unknowns x and y. Therefore, we need to have two equations. But the problem with this question is that the unknowns are the power. So what we have to do is we have to make both sides, the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the equation, have the same body so that we can compare the power. And we form another two equations from these two equations. Now let's see the solution. So for the first equation is 3 to the power x plus y equals cube root of 27. So cube root of 27 is 3. Therefore, the equation becomes 3 to the power x plus y equals to 3. Now, the left-hand side and the right-hand side have the same body. Then we can compare the power, which is x plus y equals to 1. So we get our first equation. For the second equation, 4 to the power y over 2 to the power x equals half to the power negative 3. So we have this 4, which is not a prime number. We change it to a prime number, which becomes 2 square. Then y over 2 power x equals to 2 cube. Then we can get this equation to be 2 to the power 2y minus x equals 2 cube. Because division, right, we can minus the power. We remove the bracket, we multiply the power. And now, the left-hand side and the right-hand side have the same body, which is 2 here. We can compare the power. For this case, e is negative x plus 2y equals 3. Okay, this is my first equation and this is my second equation. Now I can solve to get the value of x and y. From here, I can say that equation 1 plus equation 2 and see what happens. X plus negative x, it will cancel out the x. So y plus 2y becomes 3y. 1 plus 3, we get 4. So the y value will be 4 over 3. Now I want to find the value of x. I can use the first equation. Since y is 4 over 3, then x plus 4 over 3 equals to 1. Hence x is negative 1 over 3. Therefore, the x is negative 1 over 3 and the y is 4 over 3. This is the answer for this question. B. A circular cylinder of volume bracket 3 sub 7 minus 6 pi cm cube has a height of 2 plus sub 7 cm and a radius of r cm. Without using a calculator, obtain an expression for r squared in the form a plus b sub 7, where a and b are integers. 4 marks. Here's a solution. The standard formula of volume for a cylinder will be V equals to pi r squared h. So given that the volume is bracket 3 sub 7 minus 6 times pi. Okay, and the height is given 2 plus sub 7. Okay, just substitute into this equation, that equals to pi r square and 2 plus sub 7. Now we make r square the subject, which we get 3 sub 7 over minus 6 over 2 plus sub 7. We will have to rationalize this answer because we don't want to have a sub at the denominator. So for this case, we'll multiply 2 minus sub 7 and over 2 minus sub 7, because here is 2 plus sub 7, so we have to times with 2 minus sub 7. Alright, so this is what we get: 6 sub 7 minus 21 minus 12 plus 6 sub 7 over 4 minus 7. Okay, because 2 plus sub 7 times 2 minus sub 7 will be 2 square minus sub 7 square. Alright, will be negative 33 plus 12 sub 7 over negative 3. And simplify, we get 33 minus 4 sub 7. Question 11. A dot on the computer screen moves in a straight line so that t seconds after leaving a fixed point O, its displacement s cm from O is modeled by s equals t cubed minus 60 squared plus 90. 1. Find the values of t at which the dot is instantaneously at rest. 3 marks. When you read this question carefully, you'll find that the question mentions the values of t. So it is in the plural form. Then you should expect that you will get at least 2 or more answers for the value of t. Okay, now let's check. Here's a solution. Given the formula or the equations of the displacement, which is s equals t cubed minus 60 squared plus 90, we can find the velocity equation, which is v equals to ds over dt. We have to differentiate the displacement equation. For this case, we get 3t squared minus 12t plus 9. Okay, and the question says that it is instantaneously at rest. So when it is at rest, the v is 0. The equation becomes 0 equals 3t squared minus 12t plus 9. We divide 3 for both sides. We get 0 equals t squared minus 4t plus 12 plus 3. Then we factorize, we get 0 equals t minus 1 times t minus 3. Therefore, as we expected, there are 2 values for t, which is t equals to 1 and t equals to 3. Means that in these 2 timings, this dot is instantaneously at rest. Part 2. Find the acceleration of the dot when it first comes to instantaneous rest. 2 marks. Okay, here's the solution. We have the equation of the velocity, v equals to 3t squared minus 12t plus 9. In order to get the acceleration, we have to differentiate the velocity. So dv over dt, for this case, we get 6t minus 12. The dot first comes to instantaneous rest at t equals to 1. So we substitute t equals to 1 into the acceleration equation, which is 6 times 1 minus 12, and the answer is negative 6 meters per second squared. Part 3. Explain clearly why the total distance traveled by the dot in the interval t equals to 0 to t equals to 4 is not obtained by finding the value of s when t equals to 4. 2 marks. Okay, here's a solution. Now why not we just substitute t equals to 4 into this equation to get the distance traveled when from t equals to 0 to t equals to 4. The reason is pretty simple, because the dot changes direction at t equals to 1 and at t equals to 3, which means when it is at instantaneously at rest. Okay, so the value of s that we get when t equals to 4 gives us the displacement of the dot, not the distance. So the displacement means the distance between the starting point to the ending point only. So that's why it doesn't tell us the distance. 3. Find the total distance traveled by the dot in the interval t equals to 0 and t equals to 4. 3 marks. Alright, so if you really want to find what's the total distance traveled from these two timing, t equals to 0 to t equals to 4, we have to find the distance part by part. So here's the solution. When t equals to 1, the S1 will be 1 cubed minus 6 times 1 square plus 9 times 1. So I label the the displacement as S1. Substitute t equals to 1 into the equation. This is what we get. And when we calculate, the S1 is 4 meters. We move on to when time is 3. Then the S second part, right, will be 3 cubed minus 6 3 square plus 9 times 3. When you calculate, the value will be 0 meters. Now the ending time is t equals to 4. Substitute again, we get the third displacement, which is 4 cubed minus 6 times 4 square plus 9 times 4. We calculate, we get S3 equals to 4 meters. Okay, so from here, with different timing, we get different displacement values. So what does it mean? We can illustrate it into this diagram. So the O is the fixed point, O, which is the starting point. It moves at this direction, and when it reaches 4 meters, which is at t equals to 1, it stops. They change direction. So this is S1. They change direction to the opposite side, right? They move to this direction. When at t equals to 3, the S2 is equal to 0, as we have calculated here. And it will stop at this point again. So it will change direction when it stops. Then we go to this direction, which reach t equals to 4, which is the ending timing that we want to calculate. We find that the S3 will be 4 meters. Right? Now we can see that we calculate the total distance traveled. So it is S1, S2, and S3. The distance actually is the same, which is 4 meters. So the total distance traveled will be 3 times 4, which is 12 meters. Question 12. It is given that fx equals 2 sine 2x and gx equals 3 cosine x over 2 minus 1. 1. State the least and greatest value of fx. 1 mark. 2. State the least and greatest values of gx. 1 mark. 3. State the period of fx. 1 mark. And 4. State the period of gx. 1 mark. So here's the solution. These few questions actually is pretty straightforward. We can just get the value from the equation. So to find the least value of fx or even gx later in the second part, right? So the concept is for the sine 2x and cosine x over 2, right? The maximum value will be 1 and the minimum value will be -1. So I want to get the least value for fx. So that means the sine 2x must be -1. Therefore, the least value of fx will be 2 times -1. We get -2. The greatest value for fx, so the sine 2x must be 1. So 2 times 1 to get the greatest value of fx, which is 2 here. Similarly for part 2, right? So we need to be careful a little bit because we have the -1 here. So the cosine x over 2, the least value is -1. Hence, the least value for gx will be 3 times -1 minus 1. We get -4. For the greatest value of gx, so the maximum value of cosine x over 2 will be 1. Hence, the greatest value of gx will be 3 times 1 minus 1. And the answer is 2. For part 3, to get the period, it will be just taking the 360 degrees divided by the b here, the value in front of the x. So for fx, it will be 360 divided by 2. The period is 180 degrees. For gx, our b is actually half here. So the period of gx will be 360 divided by half, which means that it is 360 times 2. And the period of gx will be 720 degrees. Part 5. Sketch on the same axis the graph of y equals fx and y equals gx for the range of x from 0 to 360 degrees. 4 marks. 6. State the number of solutions for the equation 2 sine 2x plus 1 equals 3 cosine x over 2 for the range of x from 0 to 360 degrees. 1 mark. Alright, here's the solution. This is the trigonometric graph sketching question, right? So we have to sketch these two equations into one single graph. Alright, so I would prefer to start to draw the second graph first, the gx. Okay, so now let's see how we can draw. Firstly, we start with the x and the y axis, right? The range is from 0 to 360. As we have calculated previously, the period for cosine x over 2 is 720. So if you want to sketch the graph from 0 to 360, I would expect that I'll get half of the graph of cosine x. And it looks like this. And the peak is 3, or the amplitude is 3. The bottom is negative 3. So this is the origin O. And next, I have to handle with the minus 1. So each of these important points have to minus 1. So 3 minus 1, we get 2. 0 minus 1, negative 3 minus 1, we get negative 4. 0 minus 1, we get negative 1. Okay, and you can see that the x-axis no longer at this location. So you have to move up 1 unit, and it looks like this. So now we can start to label the x-axis. At this point, this will be half of this graph, right? It will be 180 degrees, and at the end of this graph will be 360 degrees. And the 0 will be here. Alright, now we want to move on to draw the second graph. You can see that I draw a dotted line at the top and at the bottom here. Okay, what is the reason? Because the amplitude of the first graph, right, is 2 here. Okay, and as we have calculated in the previous question, the period of sine 2x will be 180 degrees. So from 0 to 360 degrees, I will expect that I will have 2 complete cycles. So this is the first cycle and this is the second cycle. Okay, and the minimum point will be negative 2 here. Right? Okay, so this is the graph of the y equals fx equals 2 sine 2x. Now we move on to the next question. State the number of solutions for equation 2 sine 2x plus 1 equals 3 cosine x over 2. Right, so this is from the first equation. Okay, and plus 1, we actually can move to the left side become minus 1, and this is from the gx. Alright, to get the number of solutions, just look at the graph, right, and count how many intersection points. So this is the first intersection point, this is the second intersection point, and this is the third intersection point. Okay, so we have 3 intersection points, therefore the numbers of solution is 3. Alright, that's the end of the paper, and that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Do you have any question or doubts to ask? Feel free to write it down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Do you like this video? Please don't forget to like it and share it. Until then, I will see you in the next video. Have a great day ahead.